think that's fine. Thanks for letting me know. I was about to just start talking. Okay, so red side advantage. Sorry, we'll start with blue side advantages. So blue side advantages are essentially when you are behind, you are able to respond to Baron takes a lot faster. Let's assume that the enemy team's win condition, and for a very long time in league history, fucking you wanted to do Baron. Baron essentially ended the game, and now it's a little bit different because Elder exists and whatnot, and now you can kind of have like a little trade off, but not the point right now. Not what I'm getting at. So because there is a Baron advantage on blue side, if you are behind, you can still respond to the enemy on red side taking Baron because you have terrain that will allow you to open up like this, open up like that, and then get better angles like this, right? Whereas versus red side, you don't actually have that because the terrain doesn't allow you to enter. Sure, you can enter like this, but that's a lot less optimal, especially when Baron is here. This is a lot less. This is very this is just extremely not optimal, right? So there is an inherent advantage for Baron takes on the blue side, right? So we can just be like blue side Baron responses, right? So let's actually just say Baron responses. Now, for champion picks on the blue side, you can run champions like Gangplank, champions that are better scaling. And the reason for that is because the enemy cannot attack top side or top lane as easily because there is no tri-bush dynamic. In where if you played a champion that doesn't actually have a level of, I guess, not sustain, but like, because people might misinterpret the way I say sustain, or champions that may have to, that may need assistance in top lane, may not have a very good time, especially when they have to deal with the tri-bush gank and tri-bush and mid laners and supports roaming through tri-bush, and obviously junglers too. But then when you have lanes like when you're playing from blue side and you're a top laner, it's a lot easier because the tri-bush isn't like so obvious to be actually ganked from, and so the enemy jungler has to kind of path around like this to try to hit you, which is a lot harder than having to just do something like this and hitting top lane, right? So there's actually a top advantage on blue side, like resources less champions when you have mono matchup. Well, it's not really a resource. This isn't necessarily a resource. This is just terrain benefiting you because it allows you to play certain picks that don't necessarily that aren't necessarily that strong, but because the tri-bush doesn't really exist technically on the blue side, and so junglers have to take a very awkward angle to try to gank you, you can get away with a lot more. But if you were to play a champion like that who doesn't actually have many escapes from red side, it would just be a lot harder. So blue side not only has Baron advantages, it also has top lane advantages. Obviously this is flipped this is reversed on red side because the map is a little bit reversed there. Now, what else? Blue side advantages. Here, we'll cover basic stuff, so we're not going to go into anything too advanced. So let's talk about red side advantages. Now, obviously, red side advantages, we have likewise, as we can respond to blue side Baron takes, we can respond to red side dragon takes, and this is really good. Many instances in solo queue, when your team is falling behind and all these dragons are up, chances are, you're not going to be able to get a lot of dragons because you're playing from the blue side, and then what ends up happening is you can't get a proper angle onto the enemy because the terrain does not allow you to do that. But if you were to play for Baron, it would be a lot easier to do. Now, obviously, there are champions that counteract this. Champions like MF, champions like Twisted Fate can kind of poke, Nidalee can poke. Essentially, any champions that can really excel off of hitting you across the terrain. So now if you were, let's say for example, on a team on blue side and you tried to take the Baron, well, if the enemy has an MF, they're able to properly respond to you with MF ulti. And it's champions like MF that excel from red side, right? Not to mention, like, let's say we flip the script and we say that now you're versus, like, say, a Vayne AD carry. Well, Vayne can't do anything. Vayne can't ult like MF ultis. So then what ends up happening is the Baron's a lot easier to essentially take, okay? So going back to what I was talking about, red side advantages have really, really strong terrain to immediately capture out on dragon takes, and blue side can't actually respond to that, right? Let me actually write this stuff down again. So again, just like Baron responses, the red side has dragon responses, okay? And then obviously Elder as well, okay? And then obviously, I guess blue side has not only Baron responses, but also Rift, okay? Or the Rift Herald, the crab, the thing that destroys towers, you know what I'm talking about. Now, another advantage coming from red side is in bot lane, where what ends up happening here is bot lane becomes really, really optimal. And not only for the fact that, you know, the Tribush isn't as easily, you know, accessible for a lot of the red side, for blue side junglers, it's the same thing in top lane, where if you end up being a jungler on blue side, ganking like this is a lot harder than ganking like this. The Tribush exists, and if the lane is pushed in, it's a lot harder to actually play around. And so what you're going to actually end up seeing are a lot of champions, and bot lane champions especially, that have escapes or have some kind of insurance played inside of blue side, whereas champions that are more scaling, champions that don't actually have very, very strong you know, escapes, or they actually need assistance to be able to scale well outside of lane phase into the mid game, are going to be played more into the red side. So examples like this would be Kog'Maw. Ezreal's a little different because Ezreal does have an escape. Champions like Vayne, champions like Kai'Sa, all these champions, they need a build up. They need to actually they need gold before they can actually come online. And so the Tribush here really helps them, right? So bot lane advantage, right, for the red side. Now, another advantage that the red side actually has is that there are more openings for mid laners and junglers to gank on red side, meaning that the terrain, so the routes like this are doable, routes like this are doable, routes like maybe even this are doable, right? But if you flip it and you look at the red side jungle ganking the blue side, or sorry, the blue side ganking the red side, what's going to end up happening is junglers don't actually have that kind of liberty, right? So they're not going to go in like this. This is very awkward. This is very dangerous. This is even worse, right? So because there are just better gank opportunities from red side, it's going to be a lot more optimal for junglers and mid laners to actually come down and try to assist their laners. In fact, for a very short time, when bot lane was an extremely potent lane, I think this was when the Ardent Sensor was being built on like every fucking support. Red side actually had I think a 52% win rate versus blue side, whereas blue side had like, I think a 40, I don't even know. Like blue side, I think it was a 52, but blue side was actually losing a lot more. And the reason for that is because of these terrain advantages inside of pro play. And again, this is pro play. There's nothing to do with solo queue. Although it kind of does in high elo, but nothing to do in low elo solo queue. So what ended up happening is the red side actually had higher win rates because of advantages. And as bot lane increases in, I guess, what's the word? I can't seem to find the words today. As bot lane becomes more and more important to win a game, the better these red side openings actually allow a team to begin to just start abusing them, okay? I mean, there's also many other advantages, but I think those are a little bit advanced. And it also depends on team composition. So if I ever do cover pro play, which I do plan to do soon, I'll definitely start to get a little more in-depth with these things, okay?